I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, it looks like we are now heading towards a no-deal Brexit, or at least that's what everyone is talking about now. The EU, various outlets in the UK, MPs, even Theresa May is starting to threaten the no-deal Brexit thing again with regards to her poorly negotiated plan. So what's going on? Are we now heading towards a no-deal Brexit? I believe the 12th of April is a new deadline, correct?
Yes, it is indeed. To the 12th of April is the new deadline. Now, there's lots going on, and it's a complicated story, as always. But to quote Michel Barnier, a no-deal Brexit is now the most plausible outcome. Can I explain how we've got here? We need to go back a little to our last video, one we did all of 2 days ago, which was a live one. And we explained there to our viewers that this story about the British Parliament taking control of Brexit and taking it away from Theresa May was based on a complete misunderstanding of British constitutional practice, and that it really wasn't that wasn't really the case at all. And in fact, what happened on Wednesday was that the British Parliament, as it said it would do, moved forward with indicative votes. Now, those indicative votes were supposed to show which alternative to Theresa May's Brexit plan the British Parliament, that the MPs in the House of Commons, favoured. And what came out of it is that there is in fact no support, no very great support in the House of Commons for any plan at all. Various plans were proposed. 3 plans were proposed, all of which, in my opinion, were very similar. One was as proposed by the Labour Party. One was proposed by a former Conservative cabinet minister, Ken Clarke, and there was a third one, which was proposed by by Oliver Letwin, who's a Conservative backbencher, very strong pro-Remain. All 3 are essentially variations of the same thing, which is Britain remaining very closely aligned to the EU in a very soft Brexit, which would essentially mean Britain continues to be part of the customs union, and even in some cases of the single market. And everyone was rejected. The MPs looked at them all and they voted them all down. Now, there's been some talk about the fact that one of the more radical proposals, which was one put forward by Ken Clarke, came within, I think it was 8 votes of success. And some people are clinging to that and trying to say that, that came very close to success. That's the one that's most likely. But the fact is it failed, and it only got as far as it did because the Labour Party quietly supported it, which it's unlikely to do now. So everything failed. Theresa May's plan has previously failed twice before. She is trying to propose it again to the House of Commons on Friday. She's trying to find ways to get around the Speaker's ruling that she can't propose it for a third time. And the way she's come round to doing that is to say, yes, I'm going to present it a third time to the House of Commons, but this time it won't be a binding vote, which makes the whole thing extremely strange, because if it's not binding, then what's the point of doing it? But even in that situation, and with Theresa May giving a promise that if she's able to get her deal accepted, she will resign, the hardline Brexiters in her own party are still saying they will vote against it. The Democratic Unionists, which is this Northern Irish party that Theresa May and the Conservatives rely upon for a majority in the House of Commons, say they will vote against it. And the Labour Party says they will vote against it. So it is again going to fail unless something very unexpected happens. So in a situation where all options are ruled out, everybody now is talking once again about the no-deal Brexit being the most likely outcome. The British government is saying that. Andrea Leadsom, who is the government's parliamentary manager, she's a government minister, has said it on behalf of Theresa May. Michel Barnier said it in Brussels when he spoke to various EU officials and European Parliament MPs. And it's been widely discussed and debated as the most likely outcome in the British media. So we've moved again within an incredibly short time from a situation where Theresa May was telling everybody that it's either my deal or no Brexit, to a situation where she's saying it's either my deal or a no deal Brexit. And it looks as if her deal is still going to be rejected. And if that's correct, if what Theresa May is saying is correct, then we move on to a no-deal Brexit. I'm going to add very quickly that we've also had some comments coming out of France where Emmanuel Macron's position is now clearly hardening. The French government has come out very clearly against a second referendum, and the government minister in France, who is in charge of France's response to Brexit, has said Britain must leave. So we are looking at a situation where it's beginning to look unlikely that the period for Britain to remain in the European Union will be extended before the 12th of April. It's beginning to look extremely unlikely that there will be an alternative plan put to the European Union before the 12th of April. It's looking extremely unlikely that Theresa May's plan will be accepted by the British Parliament, and that appears to leave a no-deal Brexit as the most likely outcome.
I'm a little confused. If the MPs are for Remain and they had 3 plans that were specifically about Remain, a soft Brexit, but essentially would keep the UK in one form or another inside the EU, why did they vote those plans down?
That's actually a very important and interesting question, because there's no doubt at all that there's about 500 MPs out of 600 MPs in the House of Commons who are basically pro-Remain. They want Britain to remain in the European Union.
500 out of 600?
500 out of 600. There's only about 100 MPs in the British Parliament who are really committed to Brexit. All of them, incidentally, almost all of them Conservative. There are a couple of Labour MPs who are, but they're not many. And the Ulster Unionists, the Democratic Unionist Party, would probably swing behind Remain in certain situations. So why is it not happening? Why are they not able to actually find a way to stop Brexit? Well, they've tried and they've tried and they've tried, but they always come up against the same problem, which is that the only way to do that, if they did that, they would find themselves up against the anger of their own voters. And in 2/3 of British constituencies, people voted very clearly and very decisively to leave. So they're not prepared to revoke Article 50, because that would be a step too far. They are not prepared to vote for a second referendum. It's very interesting, but the option of a second referendum was not proposed on Wednesday as one of the indicative votes. The closest they got to talking about a second referendum at all was to say that, whatever deal was put forward should be confirmed in another referendum. So that's a different sort of referendum to the one we've been talking about. But even that idea failed. And at the same time, They're not prepared to accept Theresa May's deal because there are just too many people in the House of Commons have now taken strong positions against it, which they're not able to row back on. So the result is that the Remainers are in the big majority. They can't organise effectively. They're afraid of the British voters. And, they've not been able to stop it so far. Having said that, one has to give the health warning. We've still got about 2 weeks to go, and an awful lot can happen in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so the Remainer MPs are looking for a way out without feeling the wrath of the British voter.
Yes, and I'm going to make a guess, actually, about what the next move is going to be. This is assuming, as I expect, that Theresa May's deal is voted down on Friday. Some people are talking about holding the indicative vote all over again on Monday. Personally, I think that's a total non-starter. I think what we're going to see is that if Theresa May's deal is defeated on Friday, that's to say tomorrow, there will be growing pressure on Theresa May to go at once, and there will be moves from some of the Remainer MPs to try to force a general election. The idea being, call a general election, use that as a reason to persuade the EU, and in particular Macron, to delay Brexit again, and then hope that you get a Labour government, because it would have to be a Labour government, which would then say that it's going to renegotiate Brexit all over again, but which in reality will keep Britain in the European Union. That, it seems to me, of the various options, is now the most likely one. But there will be a lot of opposition to that within the Conservative Party, even from some MPs who are Conservatives and who support Remain. So it's not straightforward, but let's not count this as settled until it's settled. I think we're going to see all sorts of manoeuvres going on right up to the very day that Britain leaves, if it does leave.
If May resigns, why does there have to be a general election? Can't the Conservatives just give the role of Prime Minister to someone else?
Well, that's the problem. Who else? They can't agree on that. That's the difficulty. I mean, whenever this has been talked about before, there's been massive anger and disputes about who should take over, because the pro-Brexiters in the Conservative cabinet have their candidate, who is widely believed to be Michael Gove, and the pro-EU Conservatives in the cabinet have their candidate, who is believed to be David Lidington, and they cannot bridge the gap, that gap, and agree with each other. And there have been threats from each side that if the other side's candidate wins, if Michael Gove becomes Prime Minister, some of the pro-EU MPs and ministers will leave the government and might vote against it on a vote of confidence. And alternatively, there have been threats from the pro-Brexit side that if David Lidington becomes Prime Minister, they too will withdraw from the government and might vote against it on a vote of confidence. So we have a Prime Minister who's completely discredited. If she loses the vote tomorrow, she will have visibly failed in her flagship policy. And it's very difficult to see how she can continue to stay on. But there's no consensus or agreement within the Conservative Party as to who the next Prime Minister should be. So in that kind of situation, where the government already lacks a majority because the Democratic Unionists, without the Democratic Unionists, it doesn't have a majority in the House of Commons, a vote of no confidence in the government leading to a general election becomes a distinct possibility.
So you could actually have two options play out, which is, one is a no-deal Brexit, which is what people voted for. No-deal Brexit, they're out. The second option could actually be, and I've written it down here, elections, Labour government, Corbyn as Prime Minister, soft Brexit.
Yes, except of course that he won't get a soft Brexit. What will happen is this. You see, this is the other thing that we've got to understand. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party may talk about a soft Brexit. Various other people in the Parliament, including this Oliver Letwin, who's a Conservative MP, and Dominic Gieb, who's a Conservative MP, and Ken Clarke, who's a Conservative MP, may all propose various ideas for a soft Brexit. But the European Union isn't going to agree to any of them. Why should it? The deal it's negotiated with Theresa May suits the European Union much better, because even though these variations of soft Brexit actually align Britain with the European Union more closely, they don't have within them this key component of the Irish backstop, which keeps Britain connected in what is effect a customs union with the EU, which you cannot leave without the EU's agreement. And so from the EU's point of view, because since the EU can continue to supply goods to Britain according to the existing arrangements, all of these soft Brexit plans are actually inferior to the deal that Theresa May has negotiated. So what will happen is this. The EU will say to Jeremy Corbyn, very sorry, we don't agree with your soft Brexit proposal. We insist that the only deal that is acceptable is Theresa May's. You have said publicly that you will not agree to a no-deal Brexit under any circumstances. So if you don't accept Theresa May's plan, and if you're not going to agree to a no-deal Brexit under any circumstances, your only option is to cancel the referendum and revoke Article 50. So all this talk of soft Brexit is now, in my opinion, complete fiction. There is reality to it, because having essentially written off the no-deal option, Jeremy Corbyn has no basis to negotiate with the EU upon. It's like Tsipras tried to negotiate with the European Union over austerity, but said that he would never leave the euro. So the Europeans said to him, too bad, if you're not going to leave the euro, then we have no reason to actually row back on austerity. It's the same trap.
All right, so the EU wants control, they want power, they're in the driver's seat. They're also due £39 billion, correct?
Absolutely correct.
They're
That's exactly right. Well, of course, if there's a no-deal Brexit on the 12th of April, they won't collect on that. Some people, of course, like Macron, I'm starting to think that Macron would not be entirely sorry if there was a no-deal Brexit, because he's got his own agenda, which we've talked about before, and perhaps we can talk about
said he's pushing
in more detail.
You said he's pushing
He's pushing it, exactly. He's pushing it. So we can talk about his reasons, perhaps, in more detail on another programme. But if the EU won't get their 39 billion if there is a no-deal Brexit. But if, as I said, the government falls next week, and there's a general election, they probably would grant an extension, because they would probably calculate that a Jeremy Corbyn government, which would be the most likely result of an election, as it's not going to go for a no-deal Brexit, and as it's not going to go with Theresa May's plan, is going to be left with no choice ultimately but to revoke Article 50. So that's probably what they're saying to themselves. And frankly, looking at the situation, they're right.
All right. So what's next? What are we looking at tomorrow, over the weekend?
Right.
Weekend during.
Right. I think a number of things again. Firstly, I expect that Theresa May will get her vote tomorrow. I think Burqa will allow it. I think it will be put forward.
So Friday vote. A Friday vote.
I think there will be a vote.
We're shooting this on Thursday night, so a Friday vote.
I think there will be a vote on Friday. I think that Theresa May's deal will be voted down again, though by a smaller margin than before. And I think there will then be a great pressure upon her over the weekend, not just from the Conservatives, but from across the political spectrum and from the Labour Party for her to go. It'll be, what we have to look at is this: will she be able to hang on over the course of the following week, and to what end if she does? And will there be a vote of no confidence in the government next week? If Theresa May is able to hang on, if there is no vote of no confidence, or if the vote of no confidence in the government is defeated, then I think the prospects of a no-deal Brexit become very strong. If, on the other hand, Theresa May does resign, and or if the vote of no confidence in the government happens and succeeds, then I think there is a real possibility that Brexit there will be a long extension and a general election, and then I'm afraid, as I said, we would have to look in that situation at a real possibility of Article 50 being revoked some way down the line by a new Labour government. So it seems to me that we're now increasingly moving towards what I suspect was always the only two real options: either a no-deal Brexit or the revocation of Article 50 and the cancellation of Brexit. Because I don't think anything else makes any kind of sense.
So the cancellation of Brexit under Prime Minister Corbyn,
yes,
or a no-deal Brexit.
Exactly. I think that seems to me where this is heading. But, Alex, as I've said many times, so many times, this is such a complex situation. These people, as I said, are so complicated themselves that one can never predict with any confidence what the outcome is going to be. And always at the centre of it all, there's Theresa May, this very strange Prime Minister that we have, who clings on. If she loses the vote tomorrow, will be clinging on, as far as I can see, to no useful purpose.
All right. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on that notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. Visit the Duran shop, pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran in the description box down below. You will find links to our PayPal and Patreon pages. Please donate to the Duran. That really helps us out a lot. And of course, you can get a copy of this video in audio format. Follow us on SoundCloud and on iTunes. Don't forget, go to theduran.com and see all the articles that Alexander is linking up to every day. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you once again. Until next time, everybody, take care.